Hi, my name is Brian Lottie, and today I'm going to be giving a presentation based on an interview with a gentleman we'll call Jesse. I'll be discussing his upbringing from a young age to adulthood and into old age. After telling his story, I will reveal observations that I made of him and discuss how our course content is related. So let's get started on the next slide. Jesse is an old country boy. Before interviewing him, I asked him to review Erickson's stages so that he would have a better idea of what I would be asking him about. I would also note that I had to Skype him since I am currently in Germany and he is in Virginia. I asked him to tell me about his parents and what major events shaped each stage that Erickson presented. Childhood. Jesse is an old family friend that we have known for over a decade now. I asked him what his own parents were like. He told me how he came from a poor but united home. His mother was a kind woman who often volunteered for one thing or another. He had a strong connection with her, and she made sure to read to him every night as a child. Like he said, they didn't have a lot of money, so many of the stories that she read came from the Bible. This caused him to grow up very religious and attending church every Sunday. His father was a hard worker as a farmhand. His father was a fair man, but did not let his only child slack off. He was disciplinary, but almost always explained to Jesse why he was being punished for something. His father helped establish a sense of integrity in his son. His best friend Tommy came from a broken home with alcoholic parents. He always came over to Jesse's house to escape it. At the time, Jesse didn't understand this, but came to be the kind, supportive friend that Tommy desperately needed. Going into adolescence, as Jesse became a teenager, his father taught him how to hunt, and his mother taught him how to cook to kill. His father took Tommy under his guidance as well and taught them about how precious life was and how it was important not to waste any part of the deer if you can help it. These lessons resounded in both of these young boys' lives. During this stage in their lives, they celebrated at least once a month in the summer with a bonfire. This was a time when other friends and neighbors would come together and grow closer as a community. It was also the only time Jesse would see his father have a couple of beers. When he asked his father why this was, his father's answer stuck with him for life. He said that in our lives, we all see something terrible, something that will stick with us forever. This was his way of coming to terms with whatever happened and confronted his demons or toasted fallen friends. Jesse never knew what plagued his father's thoughts, but like any other teenager, he was bound to get into a little trouble. They had a neighbor who constantly irritated his mother, so every now and then Jesse and Tommy would go cow tipping in his field, at least until his father found out and disciplined the both of them. Jesse felt that this was important because he and Tommy felt a sense of teamwork in trying to do something good. Now Jesse's coming into adulthood at this point. In September of 1953, Jesse and Tommy they joined the army with a strong desire to serve their country. There they learned true discipline, and while made fun of for their strong southern accents, were soon welcomed into their unit. They never went to Vietnam, but they built upon morals over the course of their 4 years of service. When they got out, Tommy moved to South Carolina and Jesse started college just to get a basic education. It was during this time he met Haley. He remembers meeting her at the doctor's office and asked her for a newspaper. Things kicked off well and they married 8 months later. He says that was a lot easier back then when people still cared and worked out their problems instead of running from them. But after 2 years at school, he decided that it wasn't for him and worked several jobs until he had the money to buy a small farm where he started a family with Haley. They had 3 boys and a little girl together. He raised his boys as he was, trying to instill in them the lessons his father had taught him. However, he admits that he may have spoiled his little girl more than he should have. In his old age, Jesse tells me that all of his children are working and makes him proud. They still call him up to ask him for advice. He has 4 grandchildren that he takes out on the farm. Jesse right now is 84, but says that the only way he's leaving that farm is when he's dead. I asked him about Haley's passing, and he told me out of everything life has thrown at him, that was the worst thing that he has ever had to go through. He told me he was close to recovering from his loss when he got the call a year later that Tommy was gone too. While popular still in the community, he still has moments of great despair. He told me that every year since their passing, at the end of the summer, he builds the biggest bonfire that he can, and he has a couple beers alone. He says that after their passing, he truly understands his father's pain. Looking back over the course of his life, he wouldn't change a single moment, because to him, those moments made him the man he is today. As he was talking, there were some things I was looking for. When he discussed his father's discipline methods, he would clench his left fist. Whenever I mentioned Haley's name, or even Tommy's, he would shift in his seat just a little bit. Whenever discussing his parents in general, his eyes would dart away while he was thinking before speaking. I was also able to hear a hard tone in his voice when he spoke on either a lesson he learned or believed in, or anything discipline related. To me, Jesse has never overstepped any boundaries and has always carried himself in a grandfatherly capacity. This was a whole new view of him that I had never seen before. I still highly respect him, but the one thing that really got to me wasn't his words, but his physical reactions. This gave me a whole new perspective on what to look for in people that I had been blinded to, essentially, even though it's right in front of me. And that was just my personal experience and my reflections of everything that he's told me, and made me start to think about what I could do differently. In conclusion, I'd like to discuss our course content in relation to my interview with Jesse. Since I started with Erikson's stages, I will discuss it now. In childhood, Jesse describes a positive one, built on morals and a strong Christian base. It appears to me that he learned about each of the virtues Erikson describes. In adulthood, Jesse develops love and care between his wife, Tommy, and his children. Then in old age, he develops wisdom, and he is striving to pass that virtue on. Kale and Kavanaugh say Erikson's theory is valuable in tying together psychosocial developments across the entire lifespan. Based on my interview with Jesse, Erikson's theory has a strong foundation and warrants merit. One thing I didn't mention in my observation slide was facial expressions. Whether Jesse was reserved about something happy, sad, or angry, it changed. Klimecki, Volumir, and Sanders ran tests based on punishment behavior and the physical reaction. They found that, quote, we were able to relate social behavior in the IG with both implicit and explicit measures of experienced behavior. By recording spontaneous facial expressions, we found that more frequent smiles during the low power phase of the IG predicted subsequent forgiveness behavior. In Jesse's case, you can see the emotion on his face as he speaks, which gave me an understanding of what he was feeling. The next research that I found, I did not actually list, but it has to do with friendship. When in researching the effects of friendship, Jones, Vaterlos, Jackson, and Morrill found, quote, a direct relation in friendship qualities and identity status development. Greater support within friendships was related to higher levels of achievement and lower levels of diffusion and moratorium. If you can't tell by now, the friendship Jesse had with Tommy initially and his wife later in life had a massive effect on his development. Even in the later stages of life, she still had an effect on him. In closing, though, we should take into account Jesse's story and what it led him to be a great man, a loving father, and a pillar of wisdom. Thank you.